ready to record when you are.
Okay, and a three, and a two, and a one, and record. Hey, everybody. This is the Laravel News Podcast, episode 107. Thanks so much for joining us. We actually have a relatively quick episode tonight, and we're actually recording a little bit earlier than normal. For all of you tens of people who jump on the live stream, sorry if you missed it because we're half hour earlier than normal. Just kidding. Nobody ever watches our live streams.
We should probably
Although,
announce them ahead of time and stick to a
yeah.
more
Oh, that'd be a good idea.
strict schedule.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. And you know what? You can get a pretty good I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like you can get like a in-person audience. Like you could pretty much if you join us in the live stream and you say hey or you ask a question, we'll actually answer the question or like give you a shout out on the show.
Yeah.
So if that's something that incentivizes you, feel
You'll
free to
also
join us. It's every other week.
You'll also hear what we sound like before the podcast is edited for audio-only listeners.
True story. Yeah, the uncut edition. So yeah. So anyway, we're a half hour early, and the other reason why we're a half hour early is because Mr. Dorinda is taking his wonderful child and family to go see the big man in red.
Yeah.
Mr. Santa Claus himself. Is this Eli's first time to go see the big man?
Second time. We took him last year, and he was what, 6 months old.
Significantly
last
terrified?
Year. Yeah. No, he just sat there. He
Good.
loved it. He had put his smile on as he does, and sat on Santa's lap, and it was pretty good. So I'm expecting him to lose it this year because he's a bit older.
Hopefully.
And
Fingers crossed.
New people tend to make him a little bit shy. So we'll see.
You
got to
get one of those pictures. Yeah.
It's not a.
Those are the best.
It's not a
crying on
Christmas photo
Santa's
unless
lap.
someone's crying.
That's right. So you got to get at least one of those. So fingers crossed this is the year. So that'd be funny. With that in mind, though, we actually do have a pretty quick episode. We've only got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 items to talk to you wonderful folks out there about today. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, because there has been some confusion around this in the community, and I wanted to kind of just give some clarification on it before we talk about the releases that have come out, is how the Laravel release process works now that we are following Semver. Michael, you want to talk to us a little bit about kind of what has changed and why it's actually not changed that much, except for just a couple different numbers in the version?
Yeah. So in terms of changes, Laravel is now incrementing its version number bits. So the three numbers surrounded or joined by decimal places were changed to follow semantic versioning. So before Laravel 6, we had what was considered a major release every 6 months. But those major releases bumped what would otherwise be considered the minor release number in a semantic versioning scheme. So Laravel 5.4, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, 5.8, they were all considered major releases in terms of Laravel. But in terms of semantic versioning, they would those numbers are incremented in terms of minor. And Laravel always followed a paradigm major minor kind of, or major minor release. So with Laravel 6, we took that, Taylor took the decision to move towards semantic versioning, which was, requested by heaps and heaps of people within the broader community. And so that means that anytime a backward compatible feature gets added to the framework, Laravel now bumps the second number. The third number gets bumped for any patch releases, and we only increment the first number on major releases. So that's when things get, changed and removed in a backwards breaking fashion. So you might notice that the version numbers increment a lot quicker now than what they used to. So, we would be 5.8.32 or whatever, whereas now we're seeing 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, we're up to 6.5. So, and that all comes down to what's going into each of the releases. So if we add new functionality into the framework that's added in a backwards compatible way, then the minor changes. The major ones only change when there's incompatible API changes, and they're typically going to be every 6 months. So where we saw a 5.5 to a 5.6 every 6 months previously, well, now when the next release of Laravel comes out in February, that'll then make it Laravel 7, and so on and so forth for the foreseeable future. So the release notes do actually provide an excellent some excellent information about the release process that Laravel has adopted. And the proposed release schedule hasn't really changed. So you will still have Laravel 6 as an LTS release that'll have bug fixes until September of 2021 and security fixes until 2022. And then we can expect to see major releases roughly every 6 months in line with the Symfony release structure. So we'll see, as I said, Laravel 7 in February, which would give bug fixes until next September, and then security fixes until 2021. So yeah, ultimately nothing has changed in terms of the frequency of Laravel releases or
Right.
we're not holding things back in any significant manner. It's just that the numbering scheme is changed when those releases do come out.
Yep. Yeah, and this is why. So basically, Taylor's too, as said at Laracon this year, that the framework has stabilized a lot. Like in those early days, like we jumped from 3 to 4 and then 4 to 5. It's quite sort of rapidly within a year, whatever. We had these major changes, and sort of like paradigm shifting changes, and with 6 being released, it was just like everything has really kind of stabilized, and not going to be as many like large changes. So it seemed appropriate to go to Semver at that point. And so yeah, the move to 7, I'm guessing, is probably not going to be, again, it's probably not going to be that big of a change. It'll likely be exactly what it would have been to move from like 5.5 to 5.6, a while back. So yeah, so there we go. So speaking of that, we've got Laravel 6.5.1 and 6.5.2 both released. So I'm going to just go through some of the changes real quick on these. Not a ton, just hit some of the highlights. So November 13th, they tagged 6.5.1. There was an include unless directive. So you have an include when directive in Blade where you can pass in a conditional statement or a conditional variable, I suppose. Yeah, a Boolean. Thank you. There we go. And then as a second argument, it will accept a path to a Blade template. And so you can include when, but now you also have the ability to include unless. The PHP Redis SPOP implementation was fixed by passing the count value and updating the default value to equal 1. And the model is dirty check received a fix for collection and object casts. So what I'm guessing was happening there is it wasn't maybe looking through the entire collection or the entire object to see if it was in fact dirty. So that has been fixed. You can see, of course, a full list of the changes and updates in the change log. We'll put that in the show notes. You can also check that out on GitHub. And then 6.5.2, there's a few things of note. If you're using PostGIS types in Postgres, Laravel now supports a separation between geometry and geography types. The belongs to many cursor method, which is with those lazy collections, now hydrates pivot relations. And then model serialization on jobs allows typed properties. So again, you can see the full list of the new features on the show notes, and you can check those out there. Okay, so pretty small changes, really, nothing too major. The one that's probably of most of note for me is the include unless. We've used, we've done the include when and then does the negation of whatever the item is for the Boolean, right? So include unless will be nice to have in there. Yeah. Okay, so in addition to that, we have a couple packages that we're going to be highlighting. So talk to me about these flexible notifications we have with Laravel Notify.
Laravel Notify is a flexible flash notification package for Laravel built by Arthur Money. Laravel Notify is a package that lets you add custom notifications to your project. A diverse range of notification designs are available and many are coming soon. This package provides you with JavaScript, markup, CSS, animations, and fonts needed to create many different types of notifications. The syntax is quite similar if you've ever used the Laracast Flash package, if you've used the Sparsy Flash package, it's all very similar. You've got a notify helper, so you can go notify arrow success and then pass the text in there, or you can use a connectify, which is I guess a connection notification message. There's also Drakeify, which I assume is some reference to the Canadian rapper that, Drake. No.
I'm wondering if it's not. I'm wondering if the functions aren't related to maybe like the style. of
Maybe,
the notification that it's generating. I'm not sure.
possibly.
Might be worth looking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
anyway,
let me
there's
take a look there.
some different styles in there. They all look quite nice. Well designed. They stand out. They're clean and crisp, and obviously the API is fairly clear as I said. You can learn more about the package, get the full installation instructions, and view the source code on GitHub. We will provide links to all of that in the show notes.
Yeah, it looks like that is correct. That the Drakeify, Connectify, whatever. These are different types of notifications that he's built, and they do look pretty good. It of course depends on the style of the application that you're creating, but if you're looking for something that has some styling out of the box, this could be something that'd be helpful. Yeah, I have used for the longest time Laracast's Flash package, which is so funny because I feel like that thing's been, I don't know if it's been abandoned. That's probably not fair to say that without looking for sure, but
Feature
it's just
complete.
always worked. What's that? Feature complete.
Feature
Thank
complete.
you. There you go. Exactly. But it works great. So we've just used that for a long time. So speaking of notifications, we've got this other package that allows you to automate future notifications and reminders with a package called Laravel Snooze. This is by Thomas Kane. And what it does is it simplifies automating future notifications and reminders in Laravel. So a couple of good examples of this would be a follow-up survey. For example, if somebody purchased something from your store, you could say in 2 days, go ahead and email them a survey asking them how their experience was. If you had like email drips that you wanted to send as part of your onboarding experience, a welcome email, an after sign-up email, additional tips 3 days after that, an upsell 7 days after that, right? Or even short-term recurring items. So like if you wanted to send a report every day for the next 4 weeks, all of those items are handled with this package. So it's really simple to implement as well because you just use this trait, which is snooze notifiable, and that adds a notify at method. So you can say user notify at, so any notifiable, you say notify at, and then you pass the notification that you want to send. So new birthday notification, for example, and then as a second argument, you pass in a timestamp. So you could say, Carbon now, add days 7, or however you wanted to schedule that. And then it will schedule that notification for you for the future. And then you can, you have a scheduled job, I believe, that will get run in the background, and then we'll trigger those and kick those off. In addition to being able to schedule them in advance, there's also this idea of an interrupt, right? So you can check to say, possibly, is the user still active, right? Or did their birthday change, right? Is their birthday still today if you're sending a birthday email or something, right? So there's this public function called should interrupt that you would then put on your notification class, and you would just return a Boolean from that, and that will either say, yes, go ahead and send the notification, or no, we've changed our mind, don't send that. So it looks pretty interesting. Again, Thomas Kane, and the package name is called Snooze. So you can check that out at Thomas John Kane /snooze on GitHub. Thanks, Thomas. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll also include a link in the show notes to a pretty in-depth article that Thomas wrote, just going into a little bit of the philosophy behind the package itself as well, which looks pretty interesting.
I'm interested. Does he just add a table that has like future notifications and then run through those?
I would imagine so.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Is that what his article is talking about, or no?
I didn't read it in great detail.
I'm sorry.
Here we go. Various notifications. Most of the time, I end up adding a remind at and reminder
there it is.
sent.
I see it.
Yeah. So yeah, Snooze does that. Yeah, it looks like there's a database migration as well. So I would imagine that it pumps all the notifications into that table and then just goes and finds everything that is due at some date in the past and fires them off.
Dude, I mean, I've done this so many times, right? I've literally done this same functionality 100 times, but it's just I've never made a package for it. So I really appreciate it when people say, there's this piece of logic that is not necessarily part of my domain. Like it's not like specific to the domain of the application I'm building. Like I could use this again at some point, and so they just take the time to pull it out into a package. So yeah, nice job. Really cool.
Excellent.
Okay. We have one other notification, one that it didn't see. Actually, no, it is in your list. I just skipped it. My bad. Laravel notifications as a phone call. You're looking at me like, yes, you did skip it. You did.
You did. I won't.
Hit me. What you got?
The Nexmo voice channel is a package that adds a notification to channel to the Nexmo voice channel is a package that adds a notification channel to Laravel that uses Nexmo's voice API. The package provides a notification channel for the Laravel framework that works with Nexmo's voice API, allowing text-to-speech phone calls. It also provides a fluent interface to construct your message content. To use the notification channel, you route a notification through the voice channel class and provide a to-voice method. The README documents an example so you can get a visual idea of using the package, but it's just another channel for using Laravel's notification system. So you declare your to-voice there. You say, I want to return a new message. I want a new sentence. Hi, thanks for joining my website. So you pass an array of these sentences in, and it will say your verification is, you've got the ability to interpret. So if you say that your verification code is ABC123, you can tell it specifically to interpret that as a string that needs to be spelled out. So instead of it trying to figure out how to say ABC123 as a word, it'll actually say it as the individual letters. So there's quite a bit of functionality in there. It allows you to pause, to substitute based on different languages and things like that. So you can learn more about the package and get full installation instructions and view the source code on GitHub, which we will link to in the show notes.
Translation is pretty amazing. Like that makes total sense. I wouldn't even think of that, but that's a great idea. Interesting. Awesome. Okay. We have what else here? The Laravel installer has been updated. So if you don't have the Laravel installer, maybe you use something like Lambo. So this is a cool little shout out for Titan as well. So Titan has basically a Laravel installer that is like Laravel installer plus or on steroids or however you want to say it, right? Which does exactly what the Laravel installer does, but does a couple other things. So you might check that out if you haven't heard of that before. Titan co/Lambo, I think. But Taylor released a new version for the Laravel installer, which brings it up to version 2.3, which includes the auth scaffolding. So now you can say from your command line, Laravel new, the name of your project, and then --auth, and that flag will create a new project with the authentication scaffolding installed and ready to go. As you may remember, before Laravel 6, you could run make auth immediately after creating a new installation. But Laravel 6 removed that command. So it moved it to a separate Laravel/UI package. So now, of course, it's a little bit more difficult to install that. Not difficult, it's not the right word. It's just an extra step. And so by adding this auth flag, you now have the ability to do that straight from the command line right away. Pretty cool. Okay, then we have Laravel Initializer. So what is that exactly?
So this is another extension, I suppose, on top of the Laravel installer, where I guess if you've ever found yourself writing multiple manual steps to set up a Laravel application in a new environment, or you're starting a new project, the Initializer is a convenient way to automate installing and updating an application, which so it gives you the ability to declare multiple processes and run them with the app install and update artisan commands, which run predefined actions depending on the current environment. So these use two distinct classes that run commands based on a given environment. So first off, you've got the app install class, which you can pass in your function names in there for each environment. So you'd have a public production function or a public local function, which receives a runner as a parameter. And then you can say, run this external command. So run composer install. Then you can tell it to run the artisan key generate, artisan migrate, storage link, run npm, cache your routes, your configuration, and your events. But in the local environment, you can get it to just do the composer install, generate a key, migrate, link storage, and then run npm. So in applications that I've got, especially some of the trickier or the bigger ones that have got a few more steps to get up and running, we've got some shell scripts that we just execute via composer. So we can do composer run setup, and it just runs through all this kind of stuff. So this is a Laravel, a PHP package. So it allows you to run it all directly from the artisan command line. And then you've also got the app update command, which looks very similar, and it allows you to specify per environment chains of functions to run that allow you to carry out functions whenever you want to update your application. So instead of putting all of this stuff, for example, if you're using Laravel Forge into the deploy script there, you could put this all into your application. You can then version that, and then you can just say, whenever you deploy to run PHP Artisan app update, and then reload FPM, without having to put all this stuff in, and then you've got to copy and paste that if you're ever setting up a new server in Forge, or if you want to reuse that between applications. Like, you could split this out into a package as well that leverages the underlying Laravel Initializer package in order to share the same set of installation steps between any and all of your projects if you wanted. So you can inject dependencies from the service container if you need to do that while running commands. The package contains a variety of runner actions which you can check out from the README. You can get it to create a cron task automatically for you. So assuming the user that you're running app update has permission to do it, then you can get it to create your schedule run cron entry as well. So there's a whole heap of things you can do. You can create supervisor config for a typical queue worker in Horizon. So we will definitely link up more about this package, the installation instructions, and more information in the show notes.
Yeah, I find something like this is really helpful. We actually were looking to create our own sort of version of this not too long ago. We brought on another developer who was not on premise ever. So he was only remote. So typically we have somebody who'd be on remote some of the time, or, on remote sometimes, but not always. And a lot of our stuff is run internally only. And so what we found is we had a large need for all of a sudden having a lot of seeds in the database, because I couldn't just give him a sort of dummy production version of it super easily, or he couldn't get to it really easily. And so anyway, being able to have something that you set up to say locally, when you run this, here's everything you need to do from the time literally, if you just pull it down from GitHub, run this command, and you'll be all set up with everything to go. And that can be a little bit difficult depending on how complex your application gets over time. And it's hard to keep up with, right? You have to constantly update the README and all that stuff. So if you just have one project or one task that you run, every time you install an app and you just know it's going to be there, it just becomes kind of a habit, and it's pretty cool. And I think what was really interesting too on this is when you can run it in production, depending on what your deployment script looks like, right? But the fact that you can set up your schedule run, your Horizon stuff, all of those items straight from your deploy process at just calling this runner, I thought it was pretty neat. So definitely gonna check this out and push this into some of our applications.
Yeah, it's a lot nicer as well if you want to keep everything, number one, in your repo, and number two, in PHP. We do this kind of thing for our CRM, for example. We've got a training environment that we can, we've got a command that runs, and it'll generate it'll run all the specific seeders needed to generate specific test scenarios in our CRM. And so anytime we have a new training group come through, we can just run that shell script, and then it'll rebuild the databases, reinitialize all the users, get everything back to the start. So we could do training group after training group, all with the exact same set of setup. So there's as you say, there's different ways of going about it depending on your scripts. We've just done it with shell scripts because it's easy just to put a whole bunch of run PHP Artisan this and whatever in there. But as I said, if you're not familiar with shell scripting and you want to just keep everything in your repository and everything in PHP, then this is a great way of going about it.
Yeah, the other thing too is you could still use shell scripts. You could run that script from inside here. But the cool thing about this is this also gives you access to the container and any of your Laravel commands that you might want to use. So yeah, and really at the end of the day, it's about conventions, right? It's just about deciding for your team what works best and then doing that moving forward. So this is one solution you could use, and if you use it consistently, it could definitely be helpful for your team. Okay, we also have this package by Freek van der Herten. Just kidding. I know how to say your name. Freek. Okay, so he has this package that says send users a welcome notification to set an initial password. So I could see this being interesting. This is really just kind of like one step different than having an initial confirmation email. So sometimes what you'll do, depending on how critical an application is, when somebody's signing in for the first time or registering a email, you really want to make sure that it's actually them, that they actually have access to that email address.
Or that they haven't
Something
made a
important like
typo with their email address.
exactly right. Like, okay, if you're signing them up as a user for your student, where they manage their student loans or something, all right, you certainly don't want them to accidentally give away the incorrect password or the incorrect email. I'm sorry, and then all of a sudden somebody goes and does a password reset, and now they have access to all your student loan data. That would be really bad. So a lot of times we'll validate emails, right? But with this package, Frederick takes it one step further and says, we're actually going to send them an initial email to set up their password.
Yeah.
So the Laravel welcome notification is a new package that does exactly that. Send a welcome notification to new users. The welcome notification contains a secure link where the new user can set an initial password. So the package adds a welcome valid until, so you can say it expires after 3 days. Or whatever you might have, column to the user's database table, which the package uses to generate a temporary signed route. You can kick off the process of sending the welcome email and set the validation expiration date. And the package, of course, as always, has tons of customization options, such as customizing the mail message or swapping out an entirely different notification class or whatever you'd like to do. So you can check that out at spatie/Laravel welcome notification, and we will make sure we post that in the show notes. Thanks, Spatie, and thanks, Frank. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, man. I think that brings us to the end of the show. Oddly enough, I mean, how crazy is that, right? It is time. We have done all of this in under 30 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This is also our second to last show for the year. I think we'll get one more out just before Christmas, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break here. I'm going away for a couple of weeks, so we'll probably kick things back off early in January after that. So yeah, it's can't believe that we're already at that time of year where we're talking about taking time off and getting together with our families, and it snuck up on us that quickly that we're almost probably not going to do our other extravaganza.
Oh, we are
at this point.
Oh no, we're going to make that happen. Oh right. Yes. Oh yes, we have to. It's tradition. This is year 4.
Yeah, year 4.
Isn't that insane?
We've been doing this for I can't believe people have been putting up with us
cross channel shout out. I know, right? It's we do our we do. I'm allowed to say this. Our North meets South meets Dads and Dev meets TJ Miller meets Chris Gamir meets everybody else we ever want to include in the show podcast. Christmas Extravaganza podcast. Yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. It's a lot of nonsense, but it's fun. So yeah, we got to get that in before the end of the year. Okay. Yeah. This was episode 107. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you'd like the show, feel free to share it with your friends. That'd be super awesome. Rate us up in your podcatcher of choice. Show notes for this episode are at laravel-news.com/podcast/107. And of course, as always, if you have any questions, hit us up on Twitter. You know who we are. You know where it's at Jacob Bennett, at Michael Trenda, at Laravel News. And until next time, my friends, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. If you're doing that, that's coming up quick here this next week. So you'll probably be listening to this maybe on your way to celebrate Thanksgiving with some family members. Hope it's a great, quick reprieve from work, and drive safe.
Yeah. We don't do the Thanksgiving thing here, but Black Friday is certainly becoming a thing down here. So
hey,
which is weird because
you take the worst of the American traditions.
Well, see, the fun thing about Black Friday is that is technically on Saturday here, so I'm not sure how it works out timeline wise.
That's funny. Yeah, right. You guys have Black Saturday?
Every day of the week.
Just push it one more day and make it Black Sabbath.
Hey, now we're talking.
Oh, hey. I guess actually Black Saturday would be Black Sabbath.
Could be Saturday, yeah.
Yep, Jewish it would be, but yep, Black Sabbath. You already have it. You guys have Black Sabbath.
Yeah, we do.
Nice.
All right, nothing but nonsense to finish this show. We will see you all in 2 weeks.
See ya. Bye.